on my morning drive. Just dropped off child number two. Child number one has to be dropped off at 6 a.m. So this is about an hour and a quarter later. So this is when I drop off child number two. So I wanted to get this live done because as my day progresses, I'm going to have less and less pockets of time where I'll be able to contribute to a live. So you guys are on my early morning drive, fresh, free, no makeup, nothing on but some lip balm. So, it is what it is. But I wanted to talk about the entitlement to support. And it's something that I've been working through in my own mind and in regards to my own life, and then trying to really integrate into how I interact, how I react, and what I expect from my life, from other people, from my relationships, from my work, from my research, etc. And let's talk about the idea of support. I want to, first of all, paint the picture of the time in which I developed my view of self. Because what I am acutely aware of is that my view of self is very much based in the time that I grew up and the way that I was raised and the things that I was taught to think about myself, the way that I was taught to view myself. So I want to give you that preface, so to speak, so that you'll have an understanding of where I'm coming from. So I was born in 1969 in a town called Columbia, Tennessee. My parents are from Columbia. My mother was born in Memphis, but she was raised into adulthood in Columbia and lived in Cleveland before then. Dad is, from Columbia. Grandparents from an area called Godwin Station, Tennessee, that's even smaller than Columbia, Tennessee. And so I was raised in a time when misogynoir, meaning the common hatred of Black women, was the norm. So it wasn't just something that you would hear every now and again, it was the norm. It was the accepted view of life and how you look at life and how you deal with life. You added in misogynoir, the hatred of Black women. I was raised during a time when sexism was the norm, fat phobia was the norm, colorism was the norm. All of these things were the norm. Nobody spoke out against them. Nobody said anything against them. I was raised during a time when racism was beginning to be seen as something that was problematic. But because I was born after the big civil rights movement, there was almost a fear of speaking of the ways in which racism still impacted and stalted our lives in so many ways. And by stalted, I mean, halted, stood in the way of, obstructed, was an obstacle to. We didn't talk about that a lot. My parents and grandparents were busy celebrating the wins of the civil rights movement, and I don't judge them for that. I'm still happy about those wins as well. But I want to say all of that to say that I was not raised in a way where there was an expectation of support. Just simple support was not expected, right? Um, your parents supported you up until a point. You didn't necessarily expect support from family outside of your parents, nor did you expect it from your friend group, your peer group. You just did not expect it. It was very much push through, do what you've got to do for yourself. And the people around you are here to celebrate your wins. When you've properly pushed through and made it to the other side, what we exist for is to celebrate your wins. And so, what I realized last week was that the things that people think that they're bad at, and this thought is the result of being an educator, being a mother, and being a human being. So I observe students. It's my responsibility to support the students in their learning, right? I'm raising children. It's my responsibility to support them in their hopes and their dreams and to make sure that they have access to the things that they love and can learn about those things and be a part of those things, right? So, in my for myself, and in the way that I was raised, there was no expectation of that. You truly believed, and I think that people still believe this, that you are just bad at certain things. But as an educator, you're really not bad at anything. You're not bad at anything. You have areas of your life where you have not been properly supported, or possibly areas of your life where you have not had access to a thing, and so you're very, very unfamiliar with it. But you're not really bad at it. I'll give you an example. I'm an English teacher, I'm a writer, y'all know that. And I mean, in the English department, right, we have common jokes about how terrible we are at math, right? So most of us are known to be terrible at math. Not all. Some of us are still a whiz at math, but most of us are terrible at math. So as I thought, the thought of the things that we think we're bad at are actually things that we weren't supported in, I tested it on myself. And so one of the things that I'm the worst at is math. Anything to do with numbers, um, I can't process. The numbers won't stay in my head. It's a bizarre way of viewing life. I will admit that. But numbers don't stay in my head. Like years that things happened in history. The year won't stay in my head. I'll know exactly what the thing was. I'll know who did it. I'll know why they did it. But that year, I just can't hold in my head. So things like that is what I mean when I say numbers don't stay in my head. And so I said, well, what about that? Are you bad at that, or are you just not supported? I'm just not supported. And not only that, I have an actual trauma attached to math. So, my third grade teacher's name was Carolyn Outlaw, and I am going to say her name because this is a call out. She's probably dead, but she was an older white woman. I am the first generation in my family to go to integrated schools. So, I don't have any idea how many black children she had taught, but I found myself in her class, which maybe had maybe one or two other black students. Anyway, she was my third grade teacher, and so she was responsible for teaching me math, the beginnings of more complex math. And I remember one day, I think maybe it was multiplication. I can't really remember what we were working on, but anyway, I couldn't get it. I couldn't grasp what she was saying. And she walked over to my desk and she shook me. She shook me, you know? And I knew she wasn't supposed to do that. I knew she wasn't allowed to do that. And so, of course, I told my mother. And, my mother, being the black mother, came up to the school and had a stern talking to with Miss Carolyn Outlaw. And after that, Miss Carolyn Outlaw was an angel to me at all times, right? Because, I mean, don't nobody want to be on Lalita F. Morgan's bad side ever, even now that she's in the spirit realm. So, even though I was protected in that moment, that put an anxiety in me attached to numbers and attached to math. And because I am a cerebral person, meaning that I think a lot and I analyze a lot, I'm good at every other academic subject. I'm good. I'm really good, at every other academic subject because I'm analytical, and I'm analytical because my mother was analytical, and I was supported in analytical thinking, and I was introduced to analytical thinking and steeped in it. That's why I'm good at it. It's not just inherent, right? That's the whole point of the video. And so after I was physically assaulted by my third grade teacher while trying to learn uh, multiplication, I became bad at math. I was bad at math and I was known to be bad at math. So in the fourth grade, I was put into an honors math class because all of my classes in that grade became honors. And I was terrified because I'm bad at that. I'm not good at that, right? The message that the teacher sent me while shaking me, I believed her. I'm really, really bad at this. I'm so bad that I deserve physical punishment when I'm trying to figure it out. And so I was put into an honors math class, and oh my God, I had a magnificent teacher. And she was a younger black woman. Her last name was Secrets. I don't remember her first name. Secrets is a common name for a very beautiful, large black family in the town where I'm from. Anyway, her last name was Secrets. I don't remember her first name, but blessings on her and blessings on her lineage. She was magnificent. She was wonderful. She supported me. And what I mean by that was when I had a question, she didn't ridicule me. She answered my question. When I had a need to go deeper into what she was trying to say, she went deeper. She supported me. She was there underneath me, trying to push me to my highest potential. That's what support looks like. However, I had such a mental block to being good at math that every day I would ask her to take me out of the honors math class. And every day she would say, "This is where you belong. You are good at this. You are doing well." But every day I would ask her to take me out. And eventually one day I started crying, which I didn't do a lot. I wasn't a crying child. My brothers had shamed me for crying. The two siblings above me, who I was around most of the time, were boys. And so I got shamed for crying, and they wanted a baby brother, so I was their baby brother. And in those times, in order to be a baby brother, you didn't do all that girly ass crying. So I've been shamed for crying. I'm saying all that to say I didn't cry a lot. So one day, after a while of asking her to take me out of the class, I started crying after getting frustrated with a particular math problem. So at that point, she did allow me to go back to a regular math class and not be in the honors class. But I say all of that to say I didn't receive support in math. That is the only time that I recall receiving support in math. Well, then, and when I got to undergrad and I was taking college algebra, I guess it was, I had a magnificent teacher. I know he's an ancestor. My sister and I both had him. I was at Fisk and she was at TSU, and we both had the same teacher. Anyway, his name was Mr. Keys. Mr. Key was fire. He was the best math teacher I ever had. He supported me. He supported me. He would write the problem on the board. He would tell everybody else how to work the problem. And for me, he would take the problem all the way back to its lowest common denominator. He would take it all the way back to 1 + 1 and then work it all the way forward to this is how we have found ourselves at algebra. Magnificent teacher. However, I still couldn't pass the class because I had a mental block to it. So when I say support is what makes you good at something. So I was telling that story to share what lack of support looks like. So I'm bad at math because I was never properly supported in math, and I wasn't supported through overcoming or healing from the trauma that I associated with math, right? I probably at that point needed some therapy. Probably at that point, I may have been taken out, should have been taken out of that school where that woman had physically assaulted me. Probably still has some fear associated with being in that school. So I wasn't supported in that. And that's nobody's fault. My mother was great. She cussed the teacher out. That's what she knew to do at the time. I never had that teacher again once that was done. Like people did what they could. But when we talk about support, that's not the degree of what we actually need and what we're actually entitled to. Another thing I'm bad at, this may help show it more in depth, is sports. I'm bad at sports, believe it or not, because I'm very active, and most people consider me athletic because I'm always move. I love to move. I love to run. I love to throw balls. I love to hit balls. I love to play. I love to play. Um, Sometimes to people's annoyance. I like to play and I always have. But I'm bad at sports. And that's because my parents divorced when I was 2. So my home at that point became a single parent home. So my mother was at work. I was mostly in the house with my teenage siblings, sometimes outside, but they were teenagers and they were teenage girls. And so we weren't playing kickball or softball or baseball or anything like that. And my mother didn't have time to put me on a softball team or put me on a baseball team or kickball, whatever people were playing at that time. There was no extra time after school to put me on teams like that, and she didn't have support. Nobody else stepped in and said, I'll do this for her, right? So she wasn't supported in that area, meaning I was never introduced to sports. And so when I got into school, elementary school, I was introduced to sports in PE and gym. I loved it. I was excited. These were things that I wanted to do, but I didn't know the rules. And I guess by the time you're 4 or 5, I was 4 when I started elementary school. Born in October, long story. You're supposed to know the rules, but I didn't, right? So I don't know. But anyway, everybody was exasperated with me for not knowing the rules. And so somebody would very haphazardly and rapidly say the rules to me, and then they expected me to be able to do this thing. There was not a space to learn how to do it, where people were speaking to you kindly and where people were saying, okay, yeah, now kick it, now do this, now run. There wasn't a space to do that. The entire space was a space of judgment. You don't know how to play kickball, you don't know how to play softball, you don't know how to play t-ball. It began like that, and then when you did it wrong, it was, oh my God, you're terrible. I wish I hope you ain't on my team tomorrow. You're terrible. I hate playing with you. It went into that. There was no support. There was nobody saying, okay, let's take the time to get it right. This is how you do it, da 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 da, right? So I'm bad at sports, believe it or not. And for years I said it was because I couldn't see, which, probably factored into it as well. I've been wearing glasses since I think, 12, 11 or 12. So I may have needed glasses when I was younger too, but I know that for me, what made me anxious and unable to perform, and yes, I have a chipped nail. I know, y'all. Don't tell nobody. Definitely don't mention it to my mother in the spirit realm. It would be terrible. But I know that for me, what caused the anxiety as far as sports was concerned was not that I couldn't see what was coming my way, but it was how other people reacted to me trying to learn it. So that's what I mean. There was no support. So what does support look like? I'm trying to give you examples so you can kind of see where I'm going with this. What does support look like? For me, support is giving someone space to do something without judgment. A non-judgmental space to learn. Right, and I'm saying this within the context of math and in the context of sports, the two things that I'm saying I wasn't supported in. If you have a non-judgmental space to learn, you feel supported, right? If somebody says, okay, this is kickball, so your goal is to kick the ball as far away as you possibly can and try to get to as many of these bases as you can before the other person hits you with the ball or before they come and touch you with the ball. So when you kick the ball, this is the best way to kick it. This makes it go the furthest, and this is the best direction to kick it in because it's more difficult for the people to get it if you kick it in this direction. So okay, let's try it. Okay, now if you run towards it like that, so then you try it and you get it wrong because you ain't never did it before, and the person may say, if you run towards it like that, you're probably not gonna be able to kick it. You know, that is what support would have looked like for me in those instances. So that's just my example. But let's talk about what support looks like. I think that the message that I want to convey is that we are supposed to have support in our daily lives forever. Human beings are social creatures. You've heard that 1,000 times, right? Every anthropologist says it, every sociologist says it. Human beings are social creatures. What does that mean? That means that we gather in groups, we do things in groups, and our lives are better, and our mental health and our emotional health, and thus our physical health is better when we are interacting in groups, when we are around groups. One of the reasons for that is that you're supposed to have support, meaning that somebody's supposed to be there to help you with everything, with everything, right? So right now, I get up at 5:30 every morning. When school is in, I have to get up at 5:30 in the morning. My son has to be at his bus stop by 6. My daughter has to be at school by 7:30, right? Her school is 20 minutes away. His bus stop is maybe a 5-minute drive away, maybe 15 minutes away. We decide to walk. It's close to the house. But, you know, there's that. So I have to be up at 5:30. Um, my daughter can't eat breakfast. She's like me. She can't eat early in the morning, but my son has to have breakfast. So I have to make sure that breakfast is available. Either I have to prepare it or I have to make sure he has something that he can prepare. Right? They take lunch to school because there's nothing that's served at the school that they can eat, with all of our food allergies, et cetera, et cetera. So I have to make sure lunch has either been prepared the night before. If it hasn't, then I have to prepare the lunch or allot enough time for them to prepare the lunch. So my kids are teenagers. After that, if it's a day that I have to teach, then I have to come home, make sure that I have all of my notes and everything ready, that I'm going to teach. And then I have to get dressed, and then I have to drive 20 to 30 minutes to the campus where I teach and teach, you know. Then I have to come back. Usually, by the time it's time for me to come back, it's time to go pick my daughter up from school. She gets out of school at 2:50. So within that day, there's very little time to do things like wash dishes. There's very little time to do things like makeup beds. There's very little time to do things, to be honest with you, like cook and prepare food and prepare drinks, normal things that you need to do to live. So, in my life right now, what should actually be happening is that there should be someone with me to support me and not just to know how to do. So that's one thing. But outside of that, there should be ways to. So when I can't do those things by myself, I'm a bad mother, and I'm a bad. This is too much for one person to do by themselves. One of my neighbors is out walking her dog. He's such a pretty dog. But I wasn't raised to think about that. Right? And it's so funny because whenever I talk about the volume of things that I do in one day, I hear how ridiculous it is that I think I'm supposed to be able to do this by myself. All me, right? No, I'm not supposed to. It doesn't make sense for me to think that I can do all of that by myself. And most especially that I can do all of that by myself and do it well. Because we don't just want to do it. We want to do it well. We want to do it good. We want to do it in a way that keeps the children healthy and happy, and that the house is not only clean, but that it's beautiful, and that it smells good, and that the energy and the vibe in the house feels good. This is how I want to do it. So all of that, in addition to everything else that I'm doing, is not necessarily, is not, okay, let me be honest. It's not something that I can do by myself. So someone's supposed to be helping me, right? So people, of course, it's gonna be a troll in the comments that says, that's why you should have stayed married, and that's why you should be the type of woman that lets a trifling ass nigga stay with you so he can help you, right? Somebody's gonna say that, and that is not what this video is about at all. People are as helpful. Sorry guys, my low popped up. People are helpful. My family is helpful. Um, um, Co-parents are helpful. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is all that shit I just listed to you that has to happen in one day, one person shouldn't be doing by themselves. And that was a revelation to me. That was an epiphany. I was like, wait, whoa, wow. You shouldn't be trying to do all this stuff by yourself. And this was after years of just feeling like I wasn't managing my time well. It's like, oh man, you suck at time management. That's what I was saying to myself. You're terrible. You're terrible at time management. You are a terrible mother. You are a terrible teacher. You are a terrible um, entrepreneur. When in actuality, someone should be helping me, right? Someone should help me do those things. And that's what I mean. Someone should be washing your dishes. If you have all of these other things to do, someone should be washing the dishes. It should not be you. Someone should be mopping the floor and sweeping the floor and feeding the cats and cleaning out the litter box and keeping the carpets clean. It shouldn't be you. There's in actuality, there's no way for it to be you. Right? You can push yourself, you can stretch yourself to the limit and force it to be you. But in truth and honesty, there's no way for you to do that and to get all of the things that you want to do done well. So we are entitled to support. What do I mean by that? I mean that most of us have jobs that we should have an assistant for. I teach freshman English. I should have an assistant for that. There should be someone else who grades the papers. I teach the class. I come with the lesson and I teach the class and I make sure the students understand the lesson and then I send them home to do the lesson. So someone else should grade the papers. And that's just the truth. To create the lesson, to deliver the lesson, to make sure that the students understand the lesson is the extent of what one human being can do well. To add on to that, the duty and the task of grading papers is actually too much. One human being cannot do that well. I should have support in that. That's what support looks like. It's a radical idea, but it's true. It's facts. People should have support, right? When a baby is born, when my daughter had my grandson, I went and lived at her house for 6 weeks. I lived there, which means I did all of the cooking, I did all of the cleaning, and when she was too tired, I would go and get the baby and help with that too. Because there's no way for her to do all of that by herself. That's impossible. It's impossible to nurse a baby on demand, which is how you're supposed to nurse a baby and how you want to nurse a baby once you've had a baby and your body is flooded with oxytocin and you've bonded with the baby, you want to nurse it on demand. So that's what you feel pulled to do, but you cannot do that and keep your house clean and cook nutritious meals and heal your body from the trauma of giving birth and maintain a sweet and loving relationship with your partner, with your mate, with your husband, whoever it is that you're raising the child with. That's not possible. Support is required. You require support. Not only that, you are entitled to support. I know as Black women, I think that the root of the problem is we are the support. I think the root of the problem is we are everybody else's support. Right? So I was able to go to my daughter's house and immediately be in the role of cooking and cleaning and give me the baby, let me change the baby. You go take a nap. Give me the baby, let me give the baby a bath. You go take a shower. Give me the baby, let me rock the baby to sleep. You go, do whatever it is that you want to do while I'm doing this. I was immediately able to get into that role. First thing was because I had babies and nobody came and did that for me. But the second thing was because I think as Black women, we are the support. And so, in being the support, I think it's almost impossible for us to admit and even be aware of the fact that we need support, that we require support. I think that's hard for us to admit. And I'm not here with answers today. I'm really processing this as I'm talking to you guys about it. But we need support, and you get to have that. So right now, as I just gave you guys my schedule, that's my daily schedule. Sometimes interspersed throughout that, I'm teaching classes on my business. So this week, on Wednesday night, I'll teach Witchy Wednesday, right? So I'm doing that too. If someone has purchased a reading and scheduled a reading, then I'm also doing readings. That's happening in the midst of this entire schedule. I'm also doing comps this semester. It's a huge, big test that you have to take to get your PhD, and beginning the process of writing a dissertation. I'm doing all of that. And so right now, what needs that? The oil needs to be changed in my car. My car is also dirty. My car also has some other kind of weird check engine light that's coming on right now. So there should be someone who can come and get my car and take it to get those things checked out. I shouldn't have to do that too. That's what I'm saying. We are entitled to that support. And it shouldn't always have to be someone that I'm having sex with. So, I mean, yeah, if I have a sexual partner that I consider to be a person that I'm in a relationship with, then of course that's the person that's going to go take the car, right? That's how my mind works. That's how relationships are set up in my mind. But should it have to be somebody that I'm having sex with for somebody to realize, oh, wait, she needs somebody to go look at all these lights, thing is lit up like a Christmas tree. Let me see what's going on with this goddamn car. Should it have to be somebody I'm sexting for them to realize that needs to be done? It shouldn't. No. No. We need support. It can be outside of a romantic relationship or sexual relationship or whatever kind of relationships you're having. But people should be supporting you. Somebody should be saying, when I got in the car, I noticed it had a lot of lights lit up. I'm gonna run it on over here to the mechanic. Somebody should say that. Somebody should be supporting you. Someone should say that. Somebody should say, well, I know you rip and run all day. You pick the kids up and you take the kids and you take yourself to work and you do this. I'm going to sweep this floor for you. I'm going to mop this kitchen for you. I'm going to make some food for y'all. I'm going to clean up this kitchen. Somebody should say that. It sounds crazy, doesn't it? It sounds crazy. As I'm saying it, I'm like, but who would be in my house that I would allow to do those things? But that's just the point. We should live in community so that those things can happen, so that we can be doing them for one another. We should be in community with other people to the degree that we can do those types of things for each other. And of course, if you live close to family, family should be doing those things for one another. Of course, if you're in a relationship, you guys should do those things for one another. I'm not saying that those people should not. But what I'm saying is, as one person, I think that it is essential and it's healing for us to realize the amount of support that we need. Because when you realize the amount of support that you need, then you know what to ask for. You know what to ask for. Because prior to realizing that the reason I was feeling overwhelmed and the reason things weren't being done well and the reason I wasn't achieving some of the things that I wanted to achieve during this time was that I don't have any support. Prior to me realizing that, I didn't even know what to ask for. But once I came to the realization that it's support that I need, oh, I can ask. Maybe so and so can do this. Maybe this person can do that. Or can you do this? Can you do that for me? I need somebody to do that for me. I can do that. But if I'm not even aware that support is needed, then I don't even know what to ask. Right? And that's actually the more dangerous position to be in. Because when we don't know what to ask, what we do is sit around and judge ourselves and say, oh, I'm not a good woman. I'm not a good mother. I'm not a good student. I'm not a good teacher. I'm not a good entrepreneur. I'm not a good business owner. That's what we say. We say, I'm bad at that. Just the way I said with math, just the way I said with sports, my whole life, I'm just not good at that. But that's not true. I wasn't properly supported in that. And so my connection with it is infused with trauma. It's traumatizing to me still. So all of that to say, and like I said, I'm processing it. So there may be another video about support that I create after this one. All of that to say, pause and look around at the things in your life and see the areas where you are not being properly supported. You deserve support. You deserve assistance. You are entitled. Let's take deserved out. because deserve is still on some sort of scale that makes us believe that we have to earn it. You don't have to earn support. Support should be a part of your life because you exist. That's why I mentioned that human beings are social. So you were born with an expectation of support. So you don't earn it, you don't deserve it, you are entitled to it. That's why I use that word on purpose. Okay? So pause in the areas of your life where you're overwhelmed, in the areas of your life where you're not doing as well as you know you can do, in the areas of your life where things seem to be fucking up, things seem to be falling apart, things seem to be not going well. Pause and ask yourself, is it because you need support? And if, like me, you realize that you need support, then ask for help. Reach out to your friends and ask for help and say, I can't, can somebody help me with this? Can somebody do this for me? I can't do this. Can somebody get this done? Or do you know anybody that does this? Right? Sometimes you got to buy support. Sometimes you got to hire somebody to come in and clean up your house. You're entitled to that. Sometimes you got to hire somebody to come and take the car to the mechanic while you in the house working on your comps. Right? You're entitled to that. Sometimes a family member got to come to visit just to help you get your house in order. I'm gonna help you clean this up. I'm gonna help you put these things in the garage and store them in the garage. I'm gonna help you get these cabinets organized, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes you gotta send the kids to their grandparents for the summer, and your hope in doing that is that the grandparents get them on a schedule and that the grandparents teach them how to do daily tasks around the house that you don't have time to teach them. All of these things are support, and you are entitled, you just like me, are entitled to it. Life is supposed to be a loving, caring, supportive environment where you try the things that you feel led to try while people around you are cheering you on and saying, good job, good try. That's how life is supposed to feel for all of us, not just when we first started playing basketball at 5. For your whole life, you're supposed to be trying new things, and people supposed to be saying, "Oh, good job! Look at you trying that so and so." Whether you decide to stick with it or not, people are supposed to be, cheering you on for trying the new thing and supportive of you trying the new thing. And whoever it is teaching you the new thing is supposed to be teaching it to you with kindness and with consideration, and not judging you and making you feel stupid when you get it wrong. Okay, so just food for thought. I gotta go on in here and get ready for the rest of my day, but I just wanted to start processing this with you guys. Like I said, there may be another video about this. I'm not making any promises, but you are entitled to support. Peace, y'all.